If I asked you what you remember most about Bioshock, what would you say? Would you talk about Rapture, Atlas, the creepy big daddies and little sisters, or the would you kindly twist? There are a lot of memorable moments in Bioshock's story, but there's one thing you probably wouldn't mention, and that's the gameplay. Because almost nobody remembers how Bioshock actually plays, and that raises an uncomfortable question. What if one of the game's most celebrated masterpieces only earned that title because of a single moment? Bioshock changed how many people looked at video games. Depending on who you ask, it delivered one of the defining narrative experiences of the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era. The first time you see the underwater city of Rapture, it completely pulls you in, and as you uncover the dark secrets hidden beneath its walls, that wonder slowly turns into something suffocating. Rapture was meant to be a capitalist utopia, a society free from regulation and control from the world above. But it was that very dream that caused its collapse, and we as the player arrive just in time to witness the aftermath, while being guided forward every step of the way. At the time, that guidance feels natural. After all, following instructions is how video games work. But Bioshock quietly turns that expectation into one of its greatest weapons. Whenever Bioshock is mentioned, one phrase always comes up: would you kindly? Three simple words repeated before nearly every objective. If you've played the game, you know what the reveal is. Jack, the protagonist, has been conditioned to obey any command tied to that phrase. At first, Atlas uses it to help us save his family. Later, he uses it to push us toward killing Andrew Ryan. What once felt like normal video game objectives suddenly becomes something else entirely. Actions we were manipulated into performing without ever questioning why. The twist was revolutionary. It was one of the first moments in gaming that made players stop and ask who was really in control. But to understand why that moment works so well, we need to look at the parts of Bioshock people rarely talk about. Outside of the twist, Bioshock is surprisingly straightforward. The combat, aside from plasmids, follow familiar shooter design, encounters are direct, progression is linear, and exploration usually leads to small side rooms before returning us to the intended path. Most of the deeper storytelling comes through audio logs scattered throughout Rapture. They expand on the city and explain its downfall, but they also reveal something important about how the game functions, and that is that the main narrative is incredibly simple. But that simplicity isn't accidental. At its core, the entire narrative can be reduced to three goals: help Atlas reach his family, kill Andrew Ryan, and stop Fontaine. Each new area simply places another obstacle between you and the next objective. And when you really think about it, Jack has no personal motivation to continue forward. He survives a plane crash, enters an unknown city, and immediately trusts a stranger over the radio. There's no guarantee Atlas will even help him leave Rapture, but you keep moving forward because the game tells you to. And without realizing it, that's exactly the point of the twist. Video games have trained players for decades to follow instructions without hesitation. Quest markers guide us. NPCs tell us where to go. Progress depends on obedience. We rarely question these decisions because games normally reward this behavior. We move forward because progress requires it. Jack moves forward because Atlas tells him to. And with the would you kindly twist, those two things are exactly the same. That's why would you kindly works so well. Atlas was never guiding you, he was commanding you. Go here, kill this person, open that door. You weren't a hero, you were a tool, a weapon designed to eliminate Andrew Ryan and clear the path for Fontaine's takeover of Rapture. Every action you took, the plane crash, entering the city, killing Ryan, was a part of someone else's plan. The only real choice you were ever given was whether to harvest or save the little sisters, because those were the only moments you were not asked, would you kindly. Bioshock doesn't remove player agency, it reveals that it was never there to begin with. And this is where Bioshock becomes brilliant. The simplicity of the game, it isn't a weakness, it's a requirement. A more complex narrative would have given players time to stop and think. And if that happened, many of us might have started asking a very simple question. Why is Jack even doing this? What is he actually getting out of it? But Bioshock never gives you that space. Instead, it keeps the carrot just out of reach, always pushing you toward the next objective. You focus only on what's directly in front of you, exactly the way Atlas wants you to. And by the time you finally realize what's happening, it's already too late. I love video games that make the player think. Games that are not afraid to include deeper meaning beneath the surface. And Bioshock does something very rare. It makes you realize that as much as we like to believe we are in control when we play games, we really aren't. We are Jack and the developers are Atlas. We follow instructions blindly because that's how video games work. Most games try to hide that truth. Bioshock forces you to confront it. People often remember Bioshock as this flawless masterpiece, but what they're really remembering isn't the mechanics or the journey itself. They remember the moment everything changed. The moment a game stopped feeling like something you were playing and started feeling like something that had been playing you all along. Because Bioshock didn't just change storytelling in games, it changed how players understood their role inside of them. But Bioshock isn't the only game that pulled the wool over players' eyes. Spec Ops: The Line delivered one of the most powerful twists in gaming history, and you can watch my breakdown of that right here.